She thought I wouldn't notice. She thought I'd keep walking, like every other tired husband does, blind, distracted, trusting. But I stopped. And I saw it. Right there on her phone screen. 7 p.m. sharp. I'll be the one in the red dress. That was the moment something in me clicked. Not pain. Not jealousy. Just clarity. Because that wasn't a joke. That wasn't a wrong number. That was a date. Planned. Timed. Smiled over while she poured my coffee like nothing had changed. I didn't say a word. Not yet. She asked if I wanted eggs. I said no. I looked at her like a man who just found the exit door and wasn't in a rush to use it. Not until he'd had his say. Because when a woman plays games, and she thinks she's winning, sometimes the worst thing you can do is let her think she is. That night, I came home 2 hours early. She was dressed to be admired by someone else. But I said one sentence. Just one. And her entire night, her plan, collapsed before her eyes. Red's a bold choice, for a woman caught cheating. She froze in the hallway the second she heard my voice. Back arched slightly, heels halfway on, lipstick fresh, not the kind she wore for errands, or dinner with me. No. This shade was war paint. It wasn't meant for my eyes. She turned around slowly, one hand still gripping her purse like she could pretend it was all innocent. A movie. A joke. Anything but the truth. "Why are you home?" she asked. I stepped inside, calm, steady. Tossed my keys into the bowl. "Didn't like the thought of you waiting alone." She blinked. Twice. Calculating. I could see her mind scrambling, not for the truth, but for the version of it she thought I'd tolerate. "I was just meeting a friend." "Does he know you call him that?" I asked. Silence. She knew right then the room wasn't hers anymore. And I wasn't the man who'd look away. "How long?" I asked. Simple question. No heat. Just business. She looked away. That was answer enough. She didn't understand yet. I wasn't here to fight. I wasn't here to cry or beg or break down. I was here to listen. And there is nothing more terrifying to a liar than a man who doesn't interrupt. "It's not serious," she finally said. "I just needed something different. Something that reminded me who I used to be." I smiled. Not out of amusement, out of recognition. There it was. The script. I'd heard it from men my age about motorcycles, bar tabs, and bad decisions. But coming from her, it was hollow. Desperate. "And what's he reminding you of?" I asked. "What it feels like to lie." Her face twitched. First crack in the mask. She stepped forward and said, "Don't act like you've been present either." That's when I reached into the drawer, pulled out her second phone, the one she thought I didn't know about. "You're right," I said. But I never had to hide to disappear. And her knees nearly gave. She stared at the second phone in my hand like it was a live explosive. Didn't ask how I found it. Didn't deny it was hers. Just blinked. Once. Slow. I dropped it on the counter between us. "I know about the hotel, Julia." Her name felt foreign in my mouth now. Like I was talking to someone who used to live in her skin. She opened her mouth, maybe to lie, maybe to beg, but I held up a hand. "Not yet. It wasn't just dinner. And it wasn't just one night." Her lip trembled. "You followed me?" I shook my head. "I didn't need to." "He messaged you." "On my Wi-Fi. In this house." I turned the phone around. Showed her the message. "Miss your mouth. Can't stop thinking about you in that hotel mirror." Dated 2 weeks ago. Timestamped 11:42 p.m. That was the night she said her sister had a panic attack. That was the night I'd brought her tea in bed after she got home. Her face went pale. She sat down slowly, as if her body realized something her pride hadn't yet. But then she said something I didn't expect. Something that threw the whole story off its tracks. "It wasn't supposed to be him." I narrowed my eyes. "What does that mean?" She looked up, tears finally breaking. not the kind meant to earn pity. The kind people cry when their lives start collapsing in the wrong order. I was trying to meet someone else. Someone I was talking to online. But he found out. The ex. He started showing up. Threatening to tell you everything if I didn't. Her voice trailed off. My breath caught in my chest. So you were cheating, to hide a blackmail? She nodded, shaking now. I thought I had control. I didn't. Everything changed in that moment. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was a trap she walked into, and brought into our home. A man I didn't even know now had leverage over my wife, and over my life. She stood up and whispered. He said if I ever tried to leave, he'd come to you. That he had photos. And that's when I said, then it's time I meet him first. I sat in the garage that night, doors shut, engine off, lights dim. The second phone was in my hand, screen still unlocked. His name wasn't saved, just a number. But the messages told me more than a name ever could. He wasn't seducing her. He was holding her hostage with her own guilt. Threats wrapped in compliments. Control disguised as lust. Photos she never meant to take. Words she never meant to send. And yet, she did. No matter the pressure, she stepped into it. I wasn't going to pretend she was innocent. But I also wasn't going to let some coward with a burner number push this filth into my house, threaten my name, my reputation, my peace, and walk away untouched. Because that's the thing about men like me, the quiet ones, the ones who watch before speaking. When we move, we don't miss. I sat in that garage and thought about every moment that brought us here. Our first apartment. Her laugh when she burned the eggs that morning in '08. The way she used to fall asleep against my chest before her world got too loud. And now, this. A woman scared of the man she ran to, while I, the one she turned her back on, was the one planning to clean up her mess. I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel betrayed. I felt clear. For the first time in months, maybe years, I knew exactly who I was again. Not a man begging to be chosen. A man who decides what comes next. I went back inside. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, her hands clutched tight, like she was holding something that had already slipped through her fingers. She looked at me like she didn't know which version of me had walked back through that door. I spoke quietly. You're not talking to him again. She didn't argue. You're not deleting anything. Not one photo. Not one message. If this goes to court, I'll need proof of who's who. Still, no argument. Then I stepped closer. And tomorrow, you're going to tell me exactly how he got into your life in the first place. No lies. No shame. Just the facts. She nodded. But the damage was already done. Not to us, to me. Because I finally understood. She never stopped needing protection. She just forgot where it actually lived. That night, I got a message from the number. No words. Just a video. And when I opened it, it was filmed inside our bedroom. The video wasn't long. 12 seconds. But I watched it at least 20 times, my hand frozen around the phone like it might break in my grip. There she was, standing by our dresser. Same robe. Same necklace I gave her on our 10th anniversary. Smiling, but not the smile I knew. The frame shifted. A man's hand appeared. Then his voice. Muffled. Low. Confident. Say it again. And she did. Whispered it. He'll never find out. That was the moment something in me cracked. Not from jealousy. Not rage. Violation. He'd been here. Inside our home. Inside our bedroom. Our walls. Our bed. I felt the blood drain from my face. A hollow pressure settled in my chest, the kind that doesn't panic. It sharpens. I stood there, phone still playing the loop, while she watched me from across the room. She knew. She knew what I was seeing. I didn't know he recorded it, she said, almost a whisper. He told me later, threatened to send it to you. I begged him to delete it. I looked up slowly. And you thought begging would work on a man like that? She didn't speak. Her silence said enough. She had brought a stranger into our home and gave him power over both of us. And now he was escalating, baiting me. He wanted a reaction. He wanted me to come unglued. To lash out. To fall into the trap she barely clawed her way out of. But I wasn't that kind of man. I wasn't about to go down swinging in someone else's game. I sat down at the kitchen table. Pulled out a notebook. Began writing. Times, names, everything I could remember. I wasn't going to confront this man like a fool. I was going to bury him on paper first. I called my lawyer. I called a private investigator. I sent them the video. The threats. The burner number. Everything. This wasn't about a broken marriage anymore. This was about someone crossing a line he doesn't walk back from. Because he didn't just humiliate me. He entered my house. Tried to own something that wasn't his. Left behind a video like it was a trophy. But he forgot one thing. Some men don't fight for attention. They fight for what matters, and they don't stop once the fuse is lit. The next day, the investigator called. His voice was tight. We found him. And you're not going to like who he is. I leaned in. Why? Because you already shook his hand once. The name hit me like a steel door slamming shut. I didn't speak. Didn't breathe. Just let the weight of it land. His name was Daniel. A friend. Or at least, that's what I called him. We met through her years ago. He was always just around the edges. Barbecues. Holidays. Small talk at birthdays. He shook my hand in my own backyard. Smiled at me while holding a beer I bought. And all along, he was waiting. Watching. Moving closer when the cracks began to show. I'd seen this kind of man before. Not in movies. In life. Men who don't take what's theirs, they take what another man bleeds to build. They don't seduce. They infiltrate. And when they're finally inside, they don't leave through the front door. They light the whole place on fire and watch from across the street. I sat in my truck outside the investigator's office, engine off, windows fogged. And I realized something that should have made me angry, but didn't. Not anymore. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about who I'd become while it happened. I thought being steady, being composed, was enough to protect what I loved. But it wasn't. It made me a man who missed the moment his house stopped being his. So I changed. That day, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't confront Daniel. I didn't call my wife names or demand explanations. I took steps. Legal. Tactical. Ruthless. Restraining orders. Digital forensics. Asset protections she didn't even know existed. Because love had left the table. Now it was about respect. And I wasn't asking for it anymore, I was taking it back. That night, I stood in the hallway of our house, no, my house. And I looked at her. Not the way a husband looks at a wife. But the way a man looks at someone who helped break into his life and left the door open behind her. Pack a bag, I said quietly. Not out of punishment. Out of safety. Yours and mine. She nodded. Didn't cry. Because deep down, she knew, I wasn't reacting. I was deciding. And that's what terrified her most. As she walked out the door with her suitcase, her phone lit up. Another message. From him. He won't go through with it. He's too soft. I picked up the phone. Replied once. You mistook silence for weakness. You won't do that again. 2 days later, I stood face to face with him. Daniel. No more messages. No more hiding behind burner phones and smirks sent through screens. Just a man standing on my driveway, arms crossed like nothing had happened. Like he still had a hand to play. He looked at me like I owed him something. An explanation, maybe? A punch. Something loud. But I've never believed in noise. I believe in finality. I stepped closer. No threats. No yelling. Just a man with no fear left in him. You think you walked into my life by accident? I said. You were watched. Catalogued. From the moment you touched something that wasn't yours. He scoffed, tried to play it casual. She came to me. Don't pretend you didn't know things were broken already. I nodded. They were. But you didn't fix anything. You just picked at what was weak and called yourself a man for it. He shifted his weight. Tried to laugh. But I saw it, the twitch in his jaw. The discomfort of being stared at by someone who wasn't bluffing anymore. I handed him a plain envelope. Restraining order. Digital evidence. Copies of the messages. Names of witnesses. Legal filings that would cost him more than he ever gained. You walk near my property again, I said, and the law won't be your first problem. The silence will be. He didn't say a word. Just stared at the paper in his hand like it might burn him. And then, without another glance, I turned around and walked back to the house. Because men like him want a scene. A brawl. A breakdown. But I don't perform for people who mistake kindness for softness. Inside the house, it was quiet. She wasn't there. Her scent was fading from the furniture. Her reflection gone from the frames I hadn't yet taken down. I wasn't grieving anymore. I was clearing ground. And not to rebuild what was, but to build something I didn't have to explain. That night she called. I let it ring. Then the voicemail came through. And her voice cracked as she said, Daniel's gone. Everything fell apart. I don't know where else to go. I stared at the phone. Let it sit. Because sometimes the only power left is choosing not to pick up. She showed up 2 days later. No call this time. Just the sound of tires on gravel. A knock. 3 times. Then silence. I watched from the hallway, not hiding. Just standing in the shadows of a house that no longer echoed her name. She stood there holding nothing. No suitcase. No pride. Just a woman with empty hands and nowhere left to go. Her eyes searched the window like maybe I'd appear with open arms. Like maybe this was still a love story. It wasn't. It ended the night she invited another man into the life I built, and let him leave with pieces that were never his. Now she stood in front of a door she used to have keys to. But keys don't work when the locks have changed. She knocked again. Whispered my name once. I didn't move. Some moments aren't made for closure. They're made to stay closed. She waited 5 minutes. Then left. And when her car disappeared down the road, I stepped outside. The evening was quiet. The air sharp. I didn't feel victorious. Didn't feel broken. I just felt finished. I went back inside. Closed the door. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't look back. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to help this video reach more viewers. See you in the next one.